Welcome back to the channel, guys. There is a quiet revolution underway in Britain, and it isn't happening in Parliament. It's happening in classrooms, museums, broadcasters, councils, and public institutions. It doesn't arrive with laws or votes, it arrives with guidance, training, and a new moral language. And its goal is simple: to rewrite how Britain understands itself. Labour denies this, of course. They say it's about context, about balance, about telling the full story. But when you look closely at what is being removed, reframed, or apologised for, a pattern emerges. Britain's past is no longer something to be understood. It is something to be judged, and usually found guilty. At the centre of this project sits a deep hostility to national pride itself. Take Winston Churchill, once regarded across the political spectrum as a defining figure in Britain's survival. He is now routinely reduced to a list of modern moral failings. Statues are defaced, plaques are contextualised, school materials increasingly present him as not the leader who stood against tyranny, but as a problem to be explained away. This isn't historical scholarship, it's ideological filtering. History, properly understood, is about context. It recognises that people lived in a different moral worlds, faced different threats, and made decisions under pressure we could barely imagine. What Labour-aligned institutions are doing instead is applying today's values selectively to yesterday's figures, and always in one direction. The heroes of Britain's story are downgraded, the villains are amplified, and the country itself is presented not as a civilization with achievements and flaws, but as a source of harm whose legacy must be managed. This approach didn't come from nowhere. It flows from a broader worldview that treats the nation as an obstacle to progress. National stories bind people together. Shared history creates continuity. Pride in the past creates loyalty in the present. And loyalty is dangerous to those who prefer identity to be fragmented, negotiable, and constantly redefined. Under Labour, Britishness is increasingly treated as something suspect, something that needs qualifying, something that must always be followed by an apology. You see it in education. Traditional historical narratives are broken apart and replaced with thematic units, focused on oppression, grievance, and guilt. Empire is taught not as a complex historical phenomenon with economic, political, and moral dimensions, but as a single moral indictment. The message is subtle but constant. Britain's past is something to distance yourself from, not inherit. Now, you see it in public culture. Museums rewrite descriptions, statues are reconsidered, flags become controversial. Events once commemorated are reframed as opportunities for reflection rather than remembrance. And whenever the public objects, they're told they simply don't understand history. But people do understand what's happening. They understand that the past is being weaponized to shape the future. Because when you tell a population that its history is shameful, its traditions oppressive, and its heroes morally illegitimate, you weaken its confidence. You make it easier to argue that borders don't matter, that culture is arbitrary, that sovereignty is outdated, and people unsure of its past is easier to manage. Labour insists this is about inclusivity, but real inclusivity adds to a shared story. It does not tear the story down and replace it with a grievance accounting. A nation can acknowledge historical wrongs without defining itself by them. What we are seeing instead is a politics that requires permanent self-criticism and never allows redemption. The irony is that this rewriting is deeply selective. Labour is perfectly happy to celebrate other nations' histories in simplified heroic terms. It is only Britain's story that must be endlessly problematised. Pride elsewhere is culture, pride here is nationalism. That double standard tells you everything. This project is not driven by historians arguing in good faith. It is driven by activists embedded in institutions, in education, the arts, the civil service and the media, who believe the nation itself is the problem. Labour may not control every lever, but it provides the ideological permission structure that allows us to continue unchecked. And when the critics push back, they are smeared. They are called reactionary, nostalgic, on the wrong side of history. Debate is shut down, not with evidence, but with moral superiority. This is how rewriting succeeds, not by persuasion but by intimidation. Britain is not perfect, no nation is, but it is not uniquely wicked, and it is not a historical accident. It is a product of centuries of law, language, culture, sacrifice and continuity. That story belongs to the public, not to ideological gatekeepers. What Labour and its allies are attempting is not honest history, it is moral engineering. They are trying to create a new British identity, one stripped of pride, detached from continuity, and permanently apologetic. Because people who feel they have nothing to defend will defend nothing. This is why the fight over statues, syllabuses, and symbols matters. It's not about stone or bronze, it is about memory, and memory shapes identity. If Britain allows its past to be reduced to a list of offences, it will lose more than monuments. It will lose the confidence that holds a nation together. And once that is gone, rewriting the future becomes easy. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want more honest political commentary and don't want to miss what's really happening behind the headlines, hit that subscribe button and drop your thoughts in the comments below.